Welcome to Able Pathways podcast. I'm Annabelle Ferber, founder of Able Pathways, where we provide executive function coaching for neurodiverse individuals and professional development for educators. Our podcast explores the windy journeys of learning and growth. Each episode, we travel the unique pathways taken by a diverse range of interesting people as they reflect on pivotal moments in their lives that led to unexpected insights and transformation. Through these conversations, we hope to illuminate the infinite pathways for how we grow and learn. Visit our show notes for links, information about our speakers, and resources mentioned on this episode.
Okay, hello, hi viewer, hello audio listeners. I'm Aranck, and currently I am the librarian at the same school that I was in for most of my life, from grades 3 to 10. And so basically my journey, long story short, 3 to 10, I was at Taktse International School, and then I left and I did my high school graduation, so grades 11 and 12 from the National Institute of Open Schooling in India, which is like this, it's very similar to homeschool. Basically, I get a syllabus and I get my materials online, and I just show up and give the exam one day. That's how I did 11 and 12. After that, the big COVID thing happened, and I ended up going to college just next door at Sikkim University. I graduated with a bachelor's in psychology, which was super cool. And actually, the reason I picked psychology, we were talking about this earlier, and you said you learn so much more from life than from any degree. And I feel like that is so true, because I feel like I'm very grateful for my time in the psychology course. And I feel like what I got from there was the tools to like study from my own life. Sure, degrees are cool and they are very nice and they let me sit for competitive exams, blah, blah, blah. But I think my greatest takeaway from that course was definitely like being able to take all that and apply it like both on myself and study myself and how my brain decides to work, and also like the people around me, and try and just understand everybody a little bit better. Because maybe that's how we're all a bit happier, if we just understood each other a bit more. Um, so in my last year of college, I also applied for this fellowship called the Youth Advocacy for Suicide Prevention, which was part of this program led by the Center for Mental Health Law and Policy in Pune. And that was also very cool. And I really enjoyed doing that. And it taught me so much about just how advocacy works in a sense, and how just efforts of even individuals sort of like trickle down is the wrong word, like the whole butterfly effect of like one person's efforts moving like generations forward. And yeah, that was super sick. I love doing that as well. And almost very fittingly, that fellowship ended around the same time that Peter, who was on a previous episode of this podcast and is a mutual friend of Annabelle and I, it was around the time of his birthday. And I went to go wish him happy birthday. And at the end of the little like coffee or lunch that we had, he was like, "Hey, by the way, like I need a librarian. Do you want to join?" And this was on a Friday. And I was like, "Whoa, can I get back to you later?" And I got back home. And as soon as I sat down, I'm like, "Hey, were you like," I believe my exact words were like, "Are you dead ass? Like, are you serious about this?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Let's go. When can I start?" And then I showed up on Monday, had my interview. The people taking my interview were my middle school maths teacher. I think it was my middle school maths teacher, and Mr. Rinchen, Miss Donka, my middle school maths teacher, super cool, and Mr. Rinchen, who's been working in the admin at Taxi for a while, and I knew him. And I started on Tuesday, and
That's so cool.
now we're here, 1 year and a little bit later. And I really do enjoy the library.
So I want to just ask you, what are you currently reading and interested in?
Currently, I'm reading Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I decided to pick this up because, well, one, it was a recommendation from one of our high school literature teachers. And so I was like, yeah, let's go for it. I've always wanted to read Frankenstein. And this particular copy, in the introduction, it says something very interesting about Frankenstein that I hadn't like thought of before. That Frankenstein is such an old story that's been retold so many times, and it fits into so many genres. There's been comedic interpretations, horror interpretations, interpretations that go more into like the sci-fi aspects of it. It's a story that seems to like find itself fitting in all these different genres, and that's something that not many stories do. And I thought that was a very cool angle to take. And that, and also the fact that the movie came out, and I was like, I'm not going to watch the movie till I read the book. And I really want to watch the movie because I love Robert Pattinson. And so I'm reading. And I mean, that's how I came across. And it's been really interesting. When I first opened the book, I was expecting like gothic horror, but it opens with like almost like a travel log, like epistolary novel type of feel. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I could get into this. Yeah. I hope the book has like, because Loki, like we know the story already. It's Frankenstein, but I'm excited to see how it was originally written and how different it might. And what am I interested in right now? That's a very difficult question because anytime someone has asked me, my answer has always been, what am I not interested in right now? Think I just find everything generally fascinating. But I guess if I had to pick like my top few right now, I really am interested in, I guess, reading more. I feel like I don't read enough, especially for my job. And I guess I'm interested in other people and their stories. So yeah, again, I'm not reading enough for my job in two ways now. And I think I also enjoy making jewelry, but unfortunately I don't have anything because anything I make, I give it away to a lot.
Give it away. I know.
Yeah, so I don't have anything I can show you, but I have proof. I have this thing. I have the ring mandrel right here.
Oh, cool. That's fancy. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I have everything that I use for my jewelry making stuff in this bag. It just fits so that if I feel like it, I could just go wherever, like with the wires and everything.
Nice. Really nice.
And, yeah. And I think, one thing that has always like been an interest ever since I found it is the series of video games called like the FromSoftware is this video games production company creator in Japan. I'm also very interested in their work. I enjoy their work very much. Yeah, that's what I'm reading and interested in.
Are you watching anything or listening to anything?
Listening to music, lots of music always. Watching things, unfortunately, my taste in visual media of that sense is a little bit disgusting beyond repair. The only things I'm able to watch, like on TV, like on a screen, are like reality TV shows. For the life of me, I can't watch a series. So even when I put on the news, I can't look at it because I get bored like looking at it. So I have to like look at something else while I'm getting caught up with the world. Like you turn your brain off and you're just watching it. Oh wait, audio listeners, I just made like the dead face, like the face of like drooling.
I have the opposite. I can't watch reality TV. It stresses me out. I get very anxious and worried about everybody. What do you do that brings you like joy?
I find joy in, I guess, finding new things. New things. I find joy recently also in reading. Well, it's always been reading, but I think I've been able to enjoy reading more now because earlier it would just be, ooh, cool story, make brain happy. But now it's also like, ooh, cool story, make brain happy. But also, oh my God, I'm doing my job. I'm literally getting paid to have fun reading this book. Let's go. And yeah, that also brings me joy. I guess when I learn new things, which I guess is why I like reading, is because I like learning new things. Whenever that happens, I'm also very excited. And I think recently I've also found a lot of joy, like throughout the year, like this past year. Like anytime I hear the kids come up to me and they're like, Mr. Fiera, Mr. Fiera, which took me way too long to get used to them calling me Mr. anything or Sir. Oh, I really liked it. Like that's what like hit my brain, I guess, is like the first kid that was like, this book is so good. Thank you so much for telling me about it. And I think that book was The Hunger Games. I was like, if I see a layup, I'm taking it. Like, I'm sure they would have read it on their own anyways, but it was through me, so I get to take some credit.
So many people, if you ask them about like teachers that changed their lives. Librarians come up a lot, because those books unlock worlds.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I joke about it, like say like, oh, I get paid to just sit and read the whole day, but like I do,
You do,
I
and
think
it's
I
more than
take
that.
it, yeah, I take it. I don't know if it like, I don't know if it comes out in what I do, but I try and be very intentional with like even talking with them about reading. And one like little rule that I've made up for myself is that no kid should ever see me like on a screen of any sort at school. Like
Mm.
if you see the library scrolling on his phone, hello, what message is that giving? And just smaller things like that. Just I try and get them into reading by just reading a lot myself or be reading around them or being
And
excited about reading.
yeah. Yeah, and if they look up to you and they see you're reading, that's the best propaganda, right? That
It is the best propaganda.
what got you interested in becoming a librarian? What led you here?
I don't think there was anything that there was no moment where I was like, I want to be a librarian.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what do I do to do that? It sort of just came upon me like a blessing. Like, and I also just took it up in a like, yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Okay. So the way I became a librarian was I had just finished like a major chapter of my life. I just graduated from college. I just completed this fellowship that I'd signed up for. And I was looking at, okay, what do I do next? And I did not want to do a master's yet because I didn't have like clarity on like what I would even want to get a master's in. I had done a course in psychology and my undergrad in psychology, and I knew that I wanted it to be somewhere in that field, but I also knew I wanted it to be specific, but I didn't know where, like specifically what kind of psychology. There's so many. At the time, I was thinking clinical because the last like big project in my course was to do like model like CBT with like a volunteer.
Mhm.
And that was also one of those like formative moments where I was like, okay, I can see myself doing this. Like this is difficult and it's really stressful. As in like if I get it wrong, that's like messing up a person's whole brain for like maybe the rest of their life. So but seeing like talking with my volunteer patient and talking with through their everyday life, their hang-ups, their thought processes, and just how they function, and seeing them actually like over the span of like maybe 3 or 4 weeks, which is way too short for a CBT actually. But for like a model one, just taking like a small behavior
Yeah.
and just trying to get them to like think about it a little bit deeper and
Yeah.
seeing how that actually made an impact on their life. They were actually like happier by the end of it.
Mm.
And seeing that and being like, okay, this is great. I want to do something like that.
Yeah.
And but I didn't know how. And then I meet my mentor, principal, current employer, and longtime friend of the show also actually. I call him Peter. Annabelle will call him Pinso.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. At this point, I think if you just make a noise
Yeah.
that's about like two
It's
syllables long, you'll probably fit in his name somewhere.
yeah, or will in the future, if not the
I
present.
will in the future. It was around the time of his birthday, so like a little happy coincidence there. Like my entire like past like a 4 year long chapter of my life coming to an end, and his birthday. So I was like, hey, let me take you out for your birthday. And then we went out, we had coffee, and at the end of the coffee, he's like, by the way, I need a librarian. Like, so what's up? And I was at first I was taken aback. I was like, okay, whoa, that's cool. Do I want to do this though? And I was like, can I get back to you later? And then I went back home and I decided to myself, I'm going to think about it and I'm going to be like, okay, do I really want to do this? And then I got home. I didn't think about it at all. I just told him like, are you dead ass serious? Like, like, or were you joking? And he was like, no, pull up. And I was like, and then I went on Monday. I had my interview. The people sitting for my like who took my interview, sorry, were a lady called Miss Donka, my middle school maths teacher. She's great, love her, and Mr. Rinchen, who had been working in the taxi admin for like a long time, and I knew him since I was a child also. And yeah, and then I started on Tuesday.
And that was, I think you said about a year ago or a year and a
Yeah,
half. Yeah.
that would have been. I can actually just look it up, but I started on the first Tuesday of October, and yeah, the 2024.
And is it what you thought it would be?
At first, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, so what do I do? Do I just make sure none of the books are lost? Like, what are the vibes? And then Peter, or at this point, he was Mr. L to me because I was like back in school. So that's how I changed his name. Like, if I'm talking about him in context of Taxi, that's Mr. L. If I'm talking to him in any other way, that's
And this is perfectly normal. Yes, go on.
yeah. And so we decided that my main role is to be like, audio listeners, can you close your eyes and just picture like one of those like creepy drug dealers who'd be like hanging out at the back of a high school, like in some old movie, just like in a trench coat, fedora, and then like
Wow.
raspy voice.
Wait.
Um,
Was your high school set in the 1980s?
this high school that we're in. Yeah. But he opened the drug dealer, who is a he, I feel. He opens the co and instead of like vials and like powders of all sorts, just has pages. Like he's got like, I got books for you, kid. Like just that is in my head what I'm supposed to be, is to just be this crazy effective drug dealer, but the drugs I'm peddling are just like books and stories.
Just books and stories. Worlds, right?
Yeah. Worlds. Exactly. And that's part of it. Another part of it is to do what I can to make the library a better place and use the library to make the school a better place, which tall task, but
Yeah.
also very fun, very fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, your question was, could you repeat was it like, how has it been? Like, has it been what I thought about it?
Yeah, like, has it what you yeah, or what has been unexpected about this career?
I think what's been most unexpected is that I really like it. Ever since like I have a little brother and I used to help him with homework and like studying and stuff, like as I'm supposed to. And my mom would always tell me, you should think about teaching. I think you'd be a good teacher. And my
Oh.
mom is actually like also I would like to say a very good teacher. And so me being like the angsty teenager I was back then, I was like, gee, I don't want to teach. Audio listeners, chi, that's like a local dialect, like saying you.
Okay. I needed that translation. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I was like, you, I don't want to be a teacher. That's your thing. I'm a do me after joining and after like teaching.
So you've made reference to teaching as a drug multiple times now. Which is
Yeah.
funny. No, not actually um too far out because there is like our brains are designed to learn and we get a release of these really happy chemicals when we learn. It's motivating. So yeah, there are good drugs involved. They're just ones that we make inside of ourselves.
Yeah. And I feel like I've definitely like been experiencing the withdrawal symptoms this entire winter break.
Yeah.
Like
You
just been
yeah.
like
When does
getting back
school
in there.
start back up again?
So I start in another 2 weeks. So tomorrow is Monday, 7 more days after that.
Are you gonna make it?
I hope. At this rate,
Um
it's not looking good.
well, you have Frankenstein, and that's good company.
Yeah, a wonderful company. And
It's
I have a bunch
wonderful.
of books lined up for after Frankenstein. I think right before Frankenstein, the book I read was The Bell Jar.
Sylvia
One
Plath.
reason,
Yeah.
yeah, one reason that maybe Frankenstein's been taking me a while is because I just keep rereading parts of Bell Jar that I really like,
So good.
which maybe not the best idea for my mental health, but
Oh.
yeah, it's
Oh.
so good.
Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing when you read a lot, you can pace the book so you can think about like simpler, happier stories to follow those darker,
Yeah,
psychologically traumatizing stories. Yeah.
exactly.
I switch
And
around like that.
yeah. And recently I was talking with some of my friends and we were talking about like how I really have always disliked self-help books and I could never understand like I never thought very much about why. Like I used to think it was just because I found the people who like market or sell self-help books to be insufferable sometimes, which is still true.
Yeah, that's fair.
And there are some self-help books which like I see like even some kids read and yeah, it helps them.
Mm.
And I think those are great. If that's like because we're all wired differently. And for some people maybe self-help books are the best thing for them. And
Mhm.
in that case I think they're really good. But I think my personal disdain is a strong word to use for self-help books, but yeah, I think it's also true for me. I hate them. And I recently thought about it, and I think one thing that I'm like somewhat proud of myself is that I feel like I've learned to be more empathetic in a sense. And part of that has definitely been like education in psychology also. And I feel like books really help. They kind of force you to be more empathetic when you read a
Hmm.
story, when you have to literally put yourself in this character's shoes
That's
and see
right.
the world through their eyes. It's
Yeah,
like um the same muscles are being used there as are used when I'm meeting people and hearing
that's
about
right.
their lives.
That's so right.
And I feel like I really enjoy that about books, like being in someone else's shoes and seeing the world through their eyes.
Hmm.
Um, which is maybe why books like Beljar like strikes like resonate so deeply. With self-help books, there's nothing like that really. Like in the few
Mm-hmm.
that I've read, this book is centered around you, like
Yeah,
the reader themselves. So
yeah.
there's no like transportation, like there's no other perspective.
I mean, some of them for sure, but yeah, it is more like a textbook or like a
Yeah,
informational source. And yet I know that there's wisdom in some of this stuff too, but it's a very different kind of reading than like climbing into another world, climbing into other people, their minds, their experiences, and it's just different. It's just totally different. Do you read science fiction?
I've read a few. I've read Dune, and that's the main one. I tried
Oh,
reading Isaac Asimov in school too, but I think that was a bit much for me.
but Dune was okay.
Yeah, but Dune was maybe it was because I was older when I read Dune.
Yeah. Often talk about with Peter Pinto the science fiction's ability to not just bring you into an actual other world, but like alien ways of being. And that can like really stretch your brain and thinking about like being in a different form in a different society with completely different types of stressors. And I'm not sure if that builds empathy, but it definitely builds like thinking about things from interesting perspectives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, viewers, please, I'm always looking to get my mind changed. If there's any really good self-help books, I will be stalking the comment section on this podcast. Please leave recommendations for me.
Great. I'm just curious, like at the heart of it, like how your perspective on the way that people learn has shifted as you went from, let's say, a learner yourself to sort of studying the stuff and now, being involved with students' education. So, like, what
Mhm.
significant thing has shifted in your perspective on like how people learn over time?
I think one major thing that has always like colored my understanding is like at my core I am like a literature nerd, and being a literature nerd I feel like it's when I think of stories that I've read long ago, the details start to get a bit hazy, but what stays like clear is like what you feel while you were reading it. For example, I was telling you about like the books that like got me into it, and when I say Diary of the Wimpy Kid, Cabin Fever, I could not tell you what happens in that story. I just remember having so much fun reading it. And I feel like part of my role in the library is very similar to that, because these kids and their kids who spend most of their free time on their smartphones, their attention spans are dwindling, and their memory is also like not where it's like not the best in the world. But
Mhm.
at the same time, they're very good at remembering how like things make them feel. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
so part of what I like to do is always have the library associated with good feelings.
Yeah.
Um, as long as they're in here and they're like happy, that's half the work done for me. Because the more, well, hopefully, my idea here is the more you see the library as a place of comfort, as a place of joy, um, the more likely you are to like read, and the more likely you are to talk with me about what you're reading.
Yeah.
And um, and that's something I try and reinforce in lots of ways. I feel like actually every conversation that I start with these kids always starts with, "Hey, let me tell you about what I'm reading," and they're like, "No," and I'm like, "No, you are going to listen to me. I'm so excited to tell you." And then, "Okay, I'm reading this. It's so cool. It's so cool. Trust me, this book is so cool." And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I'm working on the way to measure my success in that way, because some of these kids, maybe they're reading already with the kids who aren't really reading. That those are the ones that are like, I would like to try even harder. There's like in my head, there's a few different kinds of readers. there's the ones who will read a book no matter what I do. Like I could literally just be like a monkey with a typewriter in the library, and they would still read just as much, just
Yeah,
because
but that would
they
be
enjoy
fun.
reading. Yeah, a monkey with a typewriter.
Sorry, but
And
that's very engaging.
yeah, a bad example, bad example. And then there's kids who are a little bit more hesitant or a little bit more shy about their reading. For example, kids who wouldn't want to read at school because it's not cool enough for them. And getting those kids to like be more comfortable sharing their reading, that I think is also very, very high on my list of priorities. And then there's the kids who, like, gun to their head, they're not going to pick up a book in their free time.
Yeah.
And I think those are the more challenging ones, which I have to always think of new ways to get them interested or get them eager to read. And sometimes that's with delivering cool stories to them and be like, hey, try this one out. Hey, try this one out. And also, part of it is not doing that too much because
it feels like too much pressure. Yeah.
yeah. So trying to like temper it and balance it. Another big thing that I would like to work on in this year is that, for example, I can only meaningfully affect so many people. Like there's a limit to the number of people I can reach. Part of my 2026 goals as the librarian is to get more of our like teachers and staff like as excited about reading as possible, because um, a large part of my marketing is that I have so much fun reading. You should have fun too. Here, let me help you find a story that will bring you joy and fun. And if I can get more people doing that, maybe that means there's more people discovering these new worlds and having fun reading.
It's a really good idea.
Maybe just if even just one or two of them finds that one story that like gets them, like I think that'd be great. Like I would see that as a win.
Do you find that there's stigma around certain kinds of books that might be bringing people joy, but they don't want to like publicly admit that they read like crime and thriller stories or some other genre that's not held up to the same lofty spaces as other forms of
Yeah.
literature?
Okay. I think in terms of stigma, I see it more in how, like, I've been more aware of this. It's more so there in how I and some of the other like teachers view certain types of books, and less so in the kids themselves. Like, and I think
Yeah.
I see that as a good thing. Like, at least the kids aren't like shy about what they're reading when they're reading it. Like, for example, I don't have the highest opinion of, for example, let's say Colleen Hoover novels.
What
There's a bunch of
genre?
reasons. Colleen Hoover is like, I don't know what genre to classify it as. It's like, I think, okay, audio listeners, Colleen Hoover,
I'm
please
gonna
don't
Google
be,
this.
yeah, because I would say it's like a bit, it's fiction, but it's definitely fiction, hopefully, but I think
She's romance and young adult fiction.
yeah, romance YFic, but I think the themes in her stories are, there's lots of discourse about her being problematic or not because of like the relationships and the romance in those novels is not exactly always the most healthy. And I think a lot of it sort of romanticizes very toxic relationship things, like toxicity within romantic relationships or with very strange male leads. Um, and I don't exactly encourage that because most of the girls reading this in school are like very impressionable, like middle school, almost like early high school. And it's like, I don't want to tell them not to read something. So I'm always trying to give them like other stories that can sort of scratch that same itch in their brain without like causing the same, like, without leaving the same impression of like, oh, if this weird thing happens in a relationship that I'm in, I think it's okay because it happened in a Colleen Hoover bathtub.
Yeah. Unhealthy boundaries. That makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, and basically, yeah, that's so in terms of is there stigma? I don't think the stigma lies in there. There's also something that comes from our side, my side, and other teachers sometimes, which is, for example, graphic novels and manga comics basically being treated almost like, the word that's coming to mind is secondary citizens to like novels, but it's like if we see a kid reading graphic novels, manga, etc., like, and I'm guilty of this too, is I would tell them like, hey, you need to like move up to like no pictures in books. Like, and I feel like that's not the right message. I feel like there's a better way for me to communicate that to them.
Yeah.
And there's also better ways for me to encourage that. Like, and there's also ways that I can find books that are in the form that they enjoy, graphic novels or comics, that also lead to the same, let's say, intellectual like stimulation as, or maybe I am completely wrong in thinking that like, hey, just because this kid is reading manga all the time, me thinking that they're less stimulated than someone who's reading novels all the time.
Yeah. That's
But
tricky. Yeah.
yeah. So for the first 6 months of the year, I was also helping with English in grade 8. So like taking some English classes. And one thing that I saw was that these kids who are reading comics more often, their sentences were shorter. Like they had
But were they more
maybe
to the point?
maybe they were, yeah. And so that was another thing. Like, okay, like we need to get this kid like trying to read books with longer sentences, like just so that they have an idea. Because what I realized, like when I write or when like we write, like since we've read so much or like we've read relatively more, it's our brain sort of has this like backlog of like sentence structure. Like, oh, I've read a sentence like this, so it must be like cool to write. But with these kids growing up, they're developing that backlog as they read. And if more and more of that, like the concept of a sentence is in general, like based on like the short and concise nature of comic books and graphic novels, then it tends to come out in their writing as well. And it's no fault of theirs because like just they literally do not have an idea. The idea of a longer sentence is just difficult for them to grasp if they haven't experienced it before. It's similar with like metaphors. Like as you live more life, there's just more things that you know sort of have a connection. Like I can say, oh, you're as fast as a cheetah. And if you don't know what a cheetah is, you have no idea what I'm saying. So it's just they're building up their cheetahs as they're reading.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder too, because writing, you're pulling, yes, from like your reading network brain, but you're also pulling from like what you've seen and heard. Like it's all different forms of language. And it's not like, I wonder, obviously you've seen a correlation there between short sentences in the books and then short sentences in the writing. But I would imagine too, like short videos, like there are other forms of the way we've like shortened and compacted information too that could be impacting that way of constructing a sentence or thinking. Writing's very auditory, and that's impacted by what I've heard and been exposed to as well. So yeah, it is so complicated and hard to find like really hard data on that stuff because of its complexity.
Yeah. And maybe that is part of it. Maybe I just need to scour Google Scholar a bit more. Yeah.
For what?
For just if there is someone who's studied this and taught the same things and has an idea about it.
Yeah.
Just for some
Yeah.
context.
Yeah. I do think like you could run into the same problem if all you read was Shakespeare. If all you read is like one kind of thing, and your brain will be shaped by that. And so I think similar to like a healthy diet has variety in it, and a healthy reading diet has variety in it, including the graphic novels, including all of these kinds of genres because they tell stories in different ways and will shape your brain in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A balanced reading diet. That's a good way to phrase it.
I'm curious if you have an experience that you could say was that where it felt like you failed at something or didn't really go according to plan, but you learned a ton from it. Do you have an experience or experiences like that that you could speak to?
Like a time where I learned a lot from like messing up.
For things not going to plan.
Which one to pick from? So I guess there's a lot. I mean, it's okay. A more recent one, let's say towards the end of the school year, there was a lot of stuff going on in terms of like planning the last day of school, like just the events how the day would go down, dealing with like the end of the library, just inventory stuff basically. And one major thing that was going on, like on the side of my head also was like, do you feel like you've did enough this year? And I feel like one major failure was not like trying to do everything that I want to do like myself, and sort of like putting responsibility on myself that no one asked me to take, and then maybe feeling some type of way when others didn't like match that energy in a
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that was like a big thing I realized, a fair judgment. Like I can't, it's not a fair criteria to judge people on like, just because like I am martyring myself in this way. Really not doesn't work to expect everyone to do the same. And I think that one big thing I learned from that was to not hold the same standards for everybody. There's You don't judge a fish by how well it can like climb a tree, basically. And there's some things that I really struggle at, which other people are really good at, and that it's okay for me to like ask them to help me out. That's a more recent one. I think one big thing was also at the beginning of this beginning of 2025, when I was taking like classes, there were classes that just didn't work. And it was a similar thing to what I said earlier about expecting, like having unrealistic expectations. So the feedback I got from my mentor was that the level that I've placed these kids at in my head is like way higher than where they actually are, in the sense that the lessons I'm planning are too complicated and they're too just basically doing too much, and I need to like simplify. I need to meet them where they're at. That was a big learning to also be, in the sense like looking back at the classes I planned, I'll like even I can tell that okay, this was a really bad plan. Like it's a really bad idea to jump into it like this. I believe the specific topic was like analyzing writing, which for me, I love doing that and I do it with almost everything. But so that like made it harder for me to plan it, because I do it so much that it feels almost like natural to me. But to like a 12-year-old who has never done it before, trying to explain it like the way that I had, like looking back, it was like one of the, I think, completely bombed that class. It was like a horrible, like,
I'm sure
like
somebody
I,
loved it, but who was on your level? But yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it didn't really, those classes didn't work out. And then I had to go back, plan again. And that didn't work. And then went back, planned again, did it again. And then it worked a little bit better. And I was like, okay, thank God, it's slightly better now. And then, yeah. So I guess what I learned there was to sort of like take it on the chin and move on to the
Yeah.
next day. Not dwell on failure. No, I did kind of dwell on it, but not let it like stop you. And I think that's sort of almost necessary in like a school setting, because I can afford sort of like when I'm the student, I can somewhat like afford to like get caught up in my mistakes and like be sad about it for a while, because it's like like learning for me is very like self-paced, like is, but when I'm the teacher, I cannot afford to do that, because it is self-paced, but like it's me setting the pace for like these 18, 20 other kids. So I can't just like wallow in that. I just have to get as much learning out of the failure as possible and use that to fix it the next day or do better the next day.
Yeah. And that's a great attitude, but that's also just such a great example of like the difference between being an expert at something like writing analysis and teaching writing analysis. And when you are an expert at something, it can be hard to remember what it's like to not know what you know now. I mean, being an expert or a content knowledge person is important, but that's not like the teaching part, really.
Yeah. Being good
Yeah.
at something and being good at teaching it are two different like
Yeah.
skills.
And you want them to be like together as a teacher. You want both of those things when you're teaching, but it's hard. I want to ask you, moving us into the present, we did talk a little bit earlier about like that academic knowledge versus the lived experience. Like, how would you describe the way you've integrated that? Because you've had a lot of schooling and life experience. And so, like, how have those integrated for you?
I think they've integrated quite, I would say quite well, in the sense, I think what I know, what I've learned of psychology and like how the brain works and how people develop, how life experiences change us so greatly. I feel like it's always there. One joke I like to make with my friends is that like after this psychology, like I could never like be pissed off at a person again, because my brain would just go into like psychoanalysis mode and then be like, okay, maybe it's like maybe that's where they're coming from. And sort of that mellows down the pissed offness. Not that I was ever a very angry person to begin with, but yeah, there's that. And there's also, I think, ways in which that I try to sell the library to these kids. And my secret agenda is like we talked about earlier, like if you think of the library as a place that brings you joy and happiness, then maybe you're going to read more.
Mhm.
And trying to be approachable and likable. At the end of the year, we did this whole like PowerPoint on like what we want to do or like looking back. But basically, part of that, I put out like expectations on what I feel a taxi librarian should be. And one of those things that I put was any student or any member of this school is hesitant to come to the library or hesitant to talk to the librarian for any reason. That's on me. That's a failure. Like if someone is like scared of me, then that means I'm not doing my job well. And I think that's part of like how my, I guess, education in psychology integrates with how I run myself every day.
Yeah.
In just being cognizant of the way brains are wired to focus on emotion and how important that is and how thought processes can work sometimes. And just trying to use that to my advantage, sort of manipulate kids to read more, I guess.
Totally. You are nefarious. Very. Mhm.
Yeah.
What do you find most meaningful about the work that you do for you personally?
Meaningful, I guess. I think I mentioned this before, but like when the kids come up to me and they're like, I love this book. I love this book. It was so nice. Do you have more like it? I think that's very meaningful. When I get book recommendations from the kids, I love reading those books. One of the books I read this year was Flowers for Algernon, which is like a beautiful, beautiful.
No. I read that when I was a kid. Still have a copy of it. Dark.
It is very dark. It's such a sweet, sweet little book. I loved it. And that was a recommendation from one of the kids. And I was like, thank you so much. I love this book. Yeah. And then another part was I think I really enjoyed in those first 6 months of taking English classes, I really loved like correcting books, like correcting their notebooks, correcting their papers, quizzes. I loved it. It was so fun because it's it's like I'm grading them, but at the same time, I feel like I'm grading myself. Like if I see that between um, the last work that they did and this present one that I'm grading, where have they improved? And have they worked on the feedback that I gave them? And if they did it actually work? It just felt I enjoyed the aspect of it, which was like, for example, Monday we have a class with an assignment. I grade that assignment. Tuesday, I give it back to the kid. And in there's a bunch of stuff like, hey, you did this really well. Very good. You didn't do this super good. Like maybe try this. Wednesday, they give back the homework and they've worked on it and it's better. And like they're happy about it. I'm happy about it. Everybody's happy. I think those parts are also like super duper meaningful. And yeah.
Are you thinking of going into teaching even more?
Yeah, I think I definitely want to like work in education for the rest of my life, which is like, God damn it, mom, you were right. But like,
She was right.
yeah.
It's in your blood.
Maybe it is. Yeah.
What would you, are you leaning into literature, English kinds of subjects?
Yeah, those are the subjects I like most. I say I like most, but I really like all of them. But in terms of like what I'm good at is like literature and English, and I guess
And writing.
Yeah, and right. In an ideal world, I would just always be a very cool librarian.
Yeah.
I
In
think
your
maybe I'm a bit
fedora
biased.
and trench coat and your files of reading drugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. Next Halloween, maybe.
That would be funny. So what questions are you exploring about the science of being a librarian and the science of teaching?
I guess the main question is how do I find better stories? How do I find more stories? How do I find the right stories for these kids? And not just the kids. This year, also the teachers and everybody. But how do I sort of match it? Because I only know the stories that I've read, and my tastes are like my taste. Like what I really like, maybe you wouldn't really like. I need to find better ways of getting giving really good recommendations? That's one big question that I'm like dealing with. Of course, there's Goodreads and there's like summaries of books that I can read, but there has to be a better, more personalized way. And I'm trying to figure out what that might be. Another one is, I guess, how can I make this more fun for me? Like, I love what I do. But if I can love doing it more, maybe I get better at it. I guess the biggest overarching question is how can I get these kids? And I have some ideas, some theories, some experiments I'd like to try. But yeah, I guess those will always be experiments because it's going to be something that I'm always going to be trying to do and
Yeah.
find new ways of doing it. Another big question is how do I like ensure the longevity of it? Like I'm so sure that a lot of the kids haven't read a single book throughout the winter break.
Mhm.
Just basically, how can I help make it easier to read for them? Like, even when they're on their own, is there something I can do? What is that? If there is, there definitely is something I can do, but whether it's feasible, whether it's possible, is it too much effort? And if it is too much effort, why is it too much effort? Why can't I do it? Or
Mhm.
what is stopping them from reading? Or what is keeping them away from books? If
Mhm.
that's even a thought. Yeah. Those are the big questions.
Yeah. Do you are you able to assess kids if they're having difficulty reading and that's what's keeping them away is like their fluency or having dyslexia or something that makes reading laborious for the brain?
I guess I don't have any formal assessment on like like on a diagnosis of dyslexia, for example, but I don't believe we have any students, at least currently, that are
Mhm.
dyslexic or who are like physically, like biologically wired to have a harder time reading.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case yet. There are like cases where I think they just find it like really, really boring.
Mhm.
And I don't know how much of that is like maybe just being a bit too accustomed to like the short form content available right now,
Yeah.
and how much of that is like them just being, for example, being recommended books that are like a bit too hard for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
My
think that's
experience,
most of it.
yeah. And the reason I just raise it because in my experience, like a lot of behaviors that people like labels that people will use with students I work with, like lazy will be a word a lot. And then we'll start working together and it's a skill. It's not like a personality flaw. It's an actual skill that they're struggling with. And it's normal for kids to hide when they're struggling with things because they don't want to be seen as stupid or different. And so there's a lot of masking that can go on that will look like being like aggressive or being lazy or being like this is also boring, but like what's happening is it's legitimately difficult for their brain. Um, and we do that a lot in education. Like we interpret behavior as a choice or personality flaw rather than like the brain, that's a brain based behavior, right? And that's something in my field that in the last couple decades has become like more obvious. Let's say someone with ADHD, which is a particular kind of brain, will struggle mightily with repetition, with lack, like not enough stimulation, not enough novelty, not enough rewards, or at least rewards that aren't like quick enough because their brain is wired for that. And yes, you can work on strengthening those skills and recognize that like that level of frustration isn't it's because like that brain is understimulated or overworked in some ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm always just curious, like anytime there's like a personality judgment, like, ooh, I wonder how we could look at that from a brain-based perspective. Well, I'll let you step onto the soapbox. Why do we need to read? Like, why is this important?
Well, I wonder all this hullabaloo about like what? Just some words on a page.
I can
Um,
just watch a movie. Why not?
yeah, and movies are great.
So good.
I think why do we need to read? I mean, there's plenty of research done, none that I can quote, unfortunately,
Oh,
but I'm
no.
sure it's out there.
No, I didn't mean to
Uh,
put you on the spot
mhm.
about that, but yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm sure I could maybe one or two, but basically research that shows reading being one of the best like general ways to like improve your language, like whichever language it is. One of the best things to like get better grades in English classes, in English quizzes, and English exams is to read more and read a variety. And I feel like that's all cool, like, yay, good grades. But I also feel like reading is how we train ourselves to like communicate, how like language at its offset is like a band-aid solution to like understanding each other. I will never truly know what is going on in your brain, but the only way I can get close to that is through language and through your language, as in what you say to me and my ability to interpret that. And nothing trains that like reading would. And you might say, like, sure, why don't you just like talk to people more? But like I said, we were talking about metaphors earlier, like you build like a stockpile of metaphors of like language through reading. And that is what we use when we're like communicating with each other, when trying to, for example, your headphones are blue. We both can agree on that. Or like your wall is brown, or like my curtain is beige or whatever. But we might be seeing two completely different colors just because like you spend your entire life being like, yes, that color is blue. And yes, that color, me also, yes, that color is blue, but it's actually a completely different color to both of us.
Yeah. But the language
And
creates the shared.
the language creates the shared like experience. And I think without reading, I know that I would be a infinitely less interesting person and like horribly less fun to be around if I wasn't a reader. And I think reading just makes you a better person. And I can't quote any studies about, but that's just me saying, sure, I am very biased. I have spent like more of my life reading than not reading. And my job is literally to get people to read.
This is why I asked you, though. You were the best person to ask.
Yeah, but I feel like the reason I love reading is because it's made me better in so many different ways. It's gotten me closer to who I want to be. It's made it easier for me to know who I want to be. And it's done that in many ways. It's done that by showing me characters in stories with traits that I would love to emulate, by training me to be able to see the world in so many different ways that help inform me about like maybe you want to be this way, maybe you want to see the world this way, maybe you want to be more like this character or that character, or maybe you don't want to be like that guy in that story. I would say it brought me closer to so many people because you can tell a lot about someone from like let's say the kinds of books they read or their favorite novels. By that, what I mean is, for example, when you talked about like, oh, I've read Flowers of Algernon too, and then just the way you reacted to it, like I could tell to some extent like what you might have felt when you were reading that book, and I could tell that it was similar to what I felt when I was reading that book. So I was able to feel closer to you in that.
We shared a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel like that is why I read. I'm no expert, I'm not anybody's mom or dad. I can't be like, you have to read because I said so. I feel like reading, I would always encourage anyone I meet to read more just because I think it's the best feeling out there when you find that one book you get.
Okay. I think we should end on like just some obviously it's not all complete, right? Because you didn't prepare for this or anything. But I love hearing from someone who really loves books, who has a wide breadth of exposure, except for self-help books, but that's fine. Let's not include those anyways. Or I don't know, Colleen Hoover. Two things I know you don't like to read, potentially. But what are some of, off the top of your head, books? We know Diary of a Wimpy Kid that just left you with that incredible feeling of like going on this adventure and not being the same at the end of it in a good way.
Definitely The Bell Jar. I feel like that book has done more to my heart, soul, and mind than any book ever had before.
Yay, feminism.
Yeah. I would definitely recommend it to like everybody. I feel like everybody has to read that book at some point in their life, especially like especially women. Like,
don't you
like,
mean
for
especially
example,
men?
Especially everybody. Everybody.
Especially everybody. Okay.
Yeah, especially everybody. If you have, I was about to say if you have the eyes to read and the heart to understand it, But honestly,
You could listen
I'm
to
sure
it on
yeah,
audiobook.
exactly. I'm sure the Braille version slaps even harder. Like being able
Even
to
harder.
yeah, like I'm just imagining like I read the fig tree with my eyes. Like if I had to read the fig tree with my hands, maybe I would be even more changed on the inside.
Yeah, that's incredible thinking about like the tactile nature of reading, and how that changes your brain and the way. Anyway, side story,
Yeah.
but okay, bell jar.
Bell jar. That's number one, definitely.
Okay.
Also, I read Dear Ijeawele. I might be pronouncing that name very wrong. I'm sorry. By Ngozi Chimamanda Adichie, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Um. Basically, that book is a letter that they wrote to she wrote to her like childhood friend who just had a child, and the overall gist of it is that she's like, I mean, as you know, like done incredible work as an advocate for feminism, as an activist against racism, and just overall very cool person. Um, one day I think her friend wrote her a letter saying like, hey, how do I raise my daughter to be a feminist? And this book was that response. And I think that book also changed the way I see like certain aspects. One that I can like name off the top of my head is like the idea that like of men being like celebrated for like helping out when they're raising their child. Like being like, oh, my husband's so nice. He does the dishes and he helps me out. Like rewarding them for that when basically that's like the bare minimum. Like you're half of this kid. You're supposed to be doing that anyways. It's not like shouldn't be like a big prize.
Right, as opposed to the invisible labor that's expected of the
Yeah,
female side of the partnership. Yeah.
exactly. I think that was like a major like shift in perspective. And I think the whole book has these like very like important like points that are being made. And the book is like 15 suggestions. And I think that was also very nice, like in the sense that they're not hard rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess wait, Dear Ijeawele might be a self-help book. I'm not sure.
Cool.
Yeah. It might be self-help, like now that I'm thinking about it a bit more.
It's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
we already decided there were going to be exceptions.
Another book would be, I think, Heroes of Olympus, Blood of Olympus, which is the final book in like this saga of like Greek and Roman myths that Rick Riordan wrote. Once again, the details of the story is hazy. Like, why exactly did I like it so much? I don't really know, but I remember the feeling of like at that point, I'm sure it had been like 7 or 8 years of like keeping up with this story, and this was the final like end to it all. And I think that was what made it so special to me. Another one that I really enjoyed was On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous. I really love that book. It's a sweet, lovely work of literature by Vuong. Yeah, those are the ones that I have in recent memory. Well, one of them is really old, but those are the recent ones that I really enjoyed.
I have some new books, and I will add all of those the show notes of other people listening.
Yeah, it's also Journey by it's this lovely picture book. I'm gonna get the author's name. I'm forgetting. I think it's like a Andrew or like a Andy, like
Aaron Becker.
Yeah, Aaron Becker.
This
Journey.
looks really cool. I really like that art.
Yeah, I love it. That's why I got it. Andrew Becker. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
She's opening a door into. I love a tree door. Okay, that looks really cool. This looks really cool. I really appreciate you chatting with me today, and I wanted to ask if there were any organizations or people that you would like to promote, including your own work too.
Caravan, my favorite magazine, like love what they do. Alveus Sanctuary in Texas, I think they also do very cool work. It's a wildlife sanctuary that's run by this like Twitch streamer, I think, and they're cool. Listeners, if you have kids, I recommend Taktse International School. They have a very cool librarian and a very cool library.
Totally.
And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was super fun.
If you've enjoyed today's discussion, I invite you to share this episode and subscribe to Able Pathways podcast on your favorite platform. Your support helps us to share these meaningful conversations with more people. Visit ablepathways.com or check out the detailed show notes for links to resources and organizations mentioned in today's episode. Have thoughts about this episode or suggestions for future guests? We would love to hear from you. Leave us a comment or email us at hello@ablepathways.com. Until next time, I'm Annabelle, reminding you that there are infinite pathways to growth. May you travel yours with curiosity and courage.